We're over a month deep into the fantasy hockey season, and it's time to separate the contenders from the pretenders and what fantasy assets are propelling these teams' success on the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, my fantasy fanatics? Welcome back inside the lab to your daily 30-minute source for all things fantasy hockey. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast coming in red hot for a Monday edition. And you know we're showing love to those everydayers who continue to make us their first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Steele, I think we're getting a good feel 12, 13, 14 games into the NHL season. What teams are looking like contenders and what teams are pretenders? We'll talk about it on today's show. Clubs that are currently in a postseason spot, some of the fantasy pieces that are propelling success, and of course, Monday's big-time bets. Over to you, my friends. We're starting in the East. I like this conversation because you need to know what teams to target overall and have that finger on the pulse. You know, I got to say it early. Montreal Canadiens, hot start, contenders, pretenders?
Absolute contenders here. I mean, this team is legit, in my opinion. They've got everything you want, and they have built a Stanley Cup contending team. They've got skill, they've got size, they've got grit, they got the physicality, they've got the goaltending, not from Montembeault, but from Jacob Dobish, like we just talked about on our waiver wire episode a little bit. The Montreal Canadiens are legit. I actually just placed a season-long division winner parlay with the Montreal Canadiens winning. That's how good I think they are. They're 8-2-0 in their last 10 games. They're on a 3-game win streak. And I know they've had somewhat of an easier run to start off the season. And maybe that goes with them being 9-3-0 with 18 points leading the division. I think they're legit, though. This is a Stanley Cup contending team. I think this is going to be a very dangerous team throughout the entire season and leading up into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Detroit Red Wings, I think this is a team that falls back down. Obviously they started off hot, fell down a little bit, started off hot, slipped a little bit, and now they're 7-3-0 in their last 10, 8-4-0 on the season. I just think while I have mentioned before, the tandem of Talbot and John Gibson can be very sneaky good, it's still a little bit of a mixed bag offensively, and especially that blue line that has excelled more than we thought they would to start off the year.
I think right now what you're seeing with the Detroit Red Wings club, where you're getting standout performances from fantasy bonus pieces like Emmett Finney, even down the lineup with other options. You know, I think a lot of people were buying into that veteran tandem Steele, but it's really kind of proved to be very valuable. They're pretenders, in my opinion, but on every single team here, monitoring these key pieces and the teams that you think will continue to propel themselves towards the playoffs, those are the teams I want to go week to week and start digging in the trenches for pieces that I can add to my squad. That's kind of like a very good general angle to take with our conversation today. The Ottawa Senators are a team that I see at 6-5-2. They're in the third spot here in the Atlantic. So you said contenders for the Montreal Canadiens. I think they're definite playoff contenders. I still don't think that tandem makes them a Stanley Cup champion. Detroit Red Wings, I like what you're saying. They're pretenders. Ottawa Senators, here's my take. Linus Ullmark needs to be the guy every single night. And he has been up and down. In my opinion, the Brady Tkachuk injury, I still call them contenders, Steele. They're just too good up front, and we know how we feel about Jake Sanderson, fantasy or otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they're at this point with the goaltending they've gotten out of Linus Ullmark, plus without their captain, Brady Tkachuk, is almost remarkable. Linus Ullmark has an .868 save percentage, an above 3.50 goals against average. Ugh. He has been atrocious. There's no beating around the bush. He's been bad. So I look at the Ottawa Senators as of right now as just an above average team. This is still a playoff contending team. I don't think they're pretenders. There's just so much skill. Dylan Cousins has been unreal. Shane Pinto has been unreal. Jake Sanderson could be a top 15, maybe even top 10, depending on how you view him. defensemen in the National Hockey League right now. They're definitely above average, but the goaltending needs to be a lot better. A lot better. That is not Vezina winning Allmark that we're seeing right now, and he has been struggling. As you can see, the goal differential, they've allowed 51 goals, 48 goals for -3 goal differential. So yeah, I'm with you right there. I think we're both on the same page when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens, Red Wings, and Ottawa Senators.
Totally agree. Take this in. The Sens are 1 goal shy of the league lead for goals for, but they are also the league leaders in goals against at 51. Worse than the Blues, the Sharks, the Bruins, the Flames. That needs to get tightened up in a hurry. And if you did invest into Allmark, I think you better hope that this Ottawa Senators team tightens it up sooner than later, but they're still dangerous. So I still call them contenders. The New Jersey Devils are a team, Steele, that you're talking about offensive output and potency. When Jack Hughes is healthy, that 1-2 punch of Nico, Hischer, and Jack Hughes up the middle is tough to compare to any other team. I love this Devils squad offensively. Jacob Markstrom being hurt, Jacob Markstrom being a little up and down. Jake Allen comes in and saves their bacon. He's been a beautiful stream option. Now that Markstrom's back, I don't know what your take on this is. I think with a healthy Hughes and a forward group that has Mercer clicking, Bratt, Palat, Meyer, I call them contenders very much so. I don't know a single team in the Eastern Conference that wants to handle that offense round 1. Should it come to that? 18 points so far, 9-3. Contenders, big time in the New Jersey Devils.
Big time contenders. They have a 3-punch combo up and down the lineup with their offensive group, with the big size they have on the blue line, and then the great tandem with Jake Markstrom and Jake Allen. I mean, this is a legit Stanley Cup contending team right now. They're off to a hot start. They kind of wobbled there for a little bit on the road against the Colorado Avalanche in that 8-4, 8-5 game, and then losing to the San Jose Sharks. I believe that was also a 6-2 or 5-2 game between them. So wobbled a little bit, but they come back big against the LA Kings over the weekend. 4-1 win for Jacob Markstrom in his second game back from the injury. Yeah. I agree. Stanley Cup contending team right here. However, I don't feel the same way, obviously, about the Pittsburgh Penguins or the Columbus Blue Jackets. Those are two teams that I believe will fall back down into, a playoff bubble spot, potentially missing out once again. Even though the Pittsburgh Penguins have been, probably the best team or one of the best teams to start off the month of October. You're getting a resurgence from Evgeny Malkin. Justin Brazeau's been bringing it on the back, and Erik Karlsson's actually been pretty decent. The tandem of Shelovs and Jari has been spectacular. Sidney Crosby obviously continues to do his thing. That's going to come back down eventually. At some point, we're probably going to see Evgeny Malkin get hurt. At some point, Justin Brazeau might go back to his normal self when we saw him with the Boston Bruins. However, also Justin Brazeau is actually injured right now. So, obviously we talked about him on the waiver wire episodes a couple weeks ago. Maybe most likely a drop at this point, but I believe Penguins and Blue Jackets will fall back down the standings.
And when you look at the Hurricanes and the New York Rangers, and I know the Rangers continue, they've played better of late, but that's been a frustrating team to peg for fantasy or otherwise. But I still would put those two teams in there. That's a safe take. And when I look at this fantasy-wise, Columbus Blue Jackets, the Jet Greaves Merzlikins combo, you might want to be looking that week to week. Sure, they're 7-4-0. There's been some value there, 4 straight wins. That is not a tandem that is taking you through a playoff run. It's just not. And I'm not knocking Jet Greaves because it's a small sample size. That's just not happening. So when it comes to fantasy value, this team can score goals, even though they've kind of struggled to do that at the pace I expect them at. Marchenko, Boone Jenner, we've spoken about, Kent Johnson, Fantilli. I think we talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, considering where they are in the standings, perhaps more than most teams. Great stream option team. Pretenders. Contenders, continuing the conversation, but both the Penguins and the Jackets fall into the pretender category. We got big time bets ready to roll for Monday night's betting board. I got a whole bunch of picks, Steele, 4 games, 4 picks. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Monarch. Have you ever been confused with all your financial accounts, let alone knowing what they're worth? 401k, savings, investments, easy to lose track, and that means leaving money on the table. That's why we both started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone, organizing accounts, tracking spending, and a better handle on investments, all without touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button. Leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Rodin. Let's continue the conversations of contenders versus pretenders in the Eastern Conference. I still think the Carolina Hurricanes, obviously, they'll be a top 3 team or top 2 team in the Metropolitan. New York Rangers, I think, will continue to battle themselves internally. Bubble team, most likely. With the teams outside of a playoff spot right now, and we're not going to talk about all of them, the 2 or the 3 teams that I believe will climb up and be a playoff team, I still think the Washington Capitals will be either a bubble team or top 3. I think Toronto Maple Leafs will be up there once again. And, of course, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Obviously, just a weird start for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But when you look at the standings right now, I mean, again, it's so early. The New York Islanders can win their next game and literally jump pretty much all the way up to the top, to one of the top wild card spots.
It's so tight.
So it's very tight. It is very tight. And obviously, we know the Toronto Maple Leafs suck in the month of October every single year. Don't hit the panic button yet. They could also jump into the top 3 of the Atlantic Division. So those are the 3 teams outside of a playoff spot that I believe will still be playoff contenders.
Totally agree with you. Some interesting fantasy angles to be taken, even on clubs like the New York Islanders. You know, we were even speaking about the Boston Bruins the other day. Keep your eyes peeled on the teams on the come up. And right now, Steele, that Eastern Conference is looking like there's a whole bunch of competition for the all wild card spots. Western Conference. Let's start with the Colorado Avalanche, a team for whatever reason headed into this season, Steele, was taking a whole bunch of disrespect.
I know no sense.
There were some pundits out there that even said they might miss the playoffs. Unless my eyes are deceiving me here, 19 points leads the NHL. They're littered with fantasy options, and I think that top line is at Natchez, Nate Daddy, and Lehkonen. That is one of the best lines in the NHL, and they are providing fantasy gold right now. And I don't know what your take is on this Colorado Avalanche team. I know Scotty Wedgwood has been, he was good at times. The goaltending might be a question. I don't think it is, but hit me with your take. Colorado, we don't even need to say it. Definitely a contender and a team that didn't get nearly enough love headed into the season.
An absolute wagon. I mean, this is a very, very good team. And I said that going into the season, when you have Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Martin Necas, Mackenzie Blackwood, Devin Taves, Gabriel Landeskog back in the lineup, Nichushkin, Lehkonen, I could go on and on, but I'm not going to. When you have those top 3 guys in the lineup, it's like a 3-headed dragon. It's so deadly every single night. It's going to come back and bite you at some point. The Colorado Avalanche are a top team in the NHL, top 5 team right now at least, alongside probably that entire top 3 in the Central Division. The Utah Mammoth had an incredible month of October. The Winnipeg Jets are 9-3-0 themselves. This is a deadly division. So when we'll go talk about the non-playoff teams in a minute. But those 3 teams right there, the Avalanche, Jets, and Mammoth, they're all contenders in my opinion. I talked about I had the Utah Mammoth being a playoff team. Maybe not them being a Stanley Cup contending team, but they're a playoff contending team. That's how good I believe the Utah Mammoth are. The Winnipeg Jets have the best goaltender in hockey. The top line is also Velarde, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele. That's one of the most deadliest lines in the NHL right now.
Scheifele's leading the league in points with 20.
Yeah. And then the Colorado Avalanche, like you said, Nathan McKinnon, that top line with Necas and Arturi Lehkonen, right there, one of the best in the league. So all 3 of those teams in the Central Division for me are all contending teams.
I wanted to come on here and, absolutely lock in the Utah Mammoth as a contender. and I don't want to like disagree with you. I'll take the Dallas Stars.
I know you don't.
I'll take the Dallas Stars into that spot. And then, in my opinion, the wild card could get dicey with what I've seen from the Anaheim Ducks. The Blackhawks look better. And I'm not trying to compare the Blackhawks or the Ducks to the Mammoth, because I think the Mammoth clearly are showing that they're the most potent offensively, and you could lock into any of their fantasy options. The Ducks also, though, could be said the same thing. We just talked about Leo Carlsson, Cutter Gauthier, all the pieces in their front nine. Mason McTavish having a good year. I could go on and on there as well. I will throw this out, though. If I were to have to choose, I'm going to throw the Utah Mammoth as pretenders for now. And I know they're on the come up. And I would say, you and I like to throw out, get yourself a piece. Definitely get yourself a piece of what's going on with Utah and the Anaheim Ducks. That's my take on that, Steele. Let's head over to the Pacific. Golden Knights, your boy Jack Eichel. That was a pretty good prediction, one that's panned out nicely.
It has, and this is a Stanley Cup contending team. And what I want to get down to this is, again, I made a futures division winners parlay. Montreal Canadiens, New Jersey Devils, Colorado Avalanche, and the Vegas Golden Knights. So as of right now, it's looking really good. Again, we're only a month into the season, but however, Vegas Golden Knights are legit. And without Aiden Hill right now, they're plug and placing what they have. Obviously we know Carter Hart's potential of what he can bring to the table once his suspension is lifted and he's able to play, I believe, December 1st. When Aiden Hill is in the lineup and he's healthy, to me, he's one of the best goaltenders in the league. And I know it's been a weird year for goaltenders all around. I mean, it's just been a very strange one with all the injuries, the amount of goals that are being scored. However, the Vegas Golden Knights, to me, they're a Stanley Cup contending team. I actually have a season-long championship parlay as well with the Vegas Golden Knights winning in the NHL. So that's how good I feel about them. Jack Eichel, hopefully the projection of 100-plus points comes true. I don't know what you think about the Edmonton Oilers, though. This is obviously a playoff team, but they're not going back to the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard. I know I just talked about Pickard as a good option this week for off the waiver wire. Yes, but that is a horrible tandem to go with. And I don't know if you've watched a lot of Edmonton hockey, but Connor McDavid looks like a shell of himself. I mean, it just doesn't look like he's McJesus anymore. And that goes to my point again that Nathan McKinnon is the best hockey player in the National Hockey League. McDavid just hasn't looked good.
You had to get that plug in there. You just had to.
I had to throw it in there. I don't know what you think, but McDavid just hasn't looked like himself this season, even though he still has 14, 15 points.
And the Oilers are still sitting tied for the division lead with the Vegas Golden Knights. He's got 17 points in 13 games. I hear you, what you're saying. It comes down to me. This Edmonton Oilers team is knocked on the door. They're still obviously contenders. They have the two best players in the game. I hear what you're saying. I'm not gonna. It's too early for me. How about that? You want me to cop out completely? I still think this team is going to be dangerous. And if that's Connor McDavid and not at his fullest, 17 points in those 13 games, then I would be scared if I was the rest of the Western Conference, because he will bring it at some point in time. Very quickly before we get to bets, the Seattle Kraken are pretenders. You know how I felt about this.
Yep,
this
100%.
is a great start. The team doesn't have it. Goaltending, Joey Decord, great stream option, 0G for sure. Not hating on him. I don't like the makeup of this team. Too many kind of middle six forwards, too many high risk, not enough reward fantasy options. It's the Dallas Stars and LA Kings sit in those wild card spots. You know that they'll be moving into the top three in the Pacific and in the Central. That's my opinion there. The Ducks have been good. Blackhawks have been good. They might be around for the bubble. I think it's going to be clear that Seattle Kraken team falls out of it. That's my take on it. I don't know what you think.
I think every team from the Chicago Blackhawks and up in that Western Conference has a real shot at making the playoffs.
Okay.
When you look below them, the Nashville Predators, Canucks, Wild, Sharks, Blues, Flames, I think they're totally cooked at this point. And it's only a month into the season.
Whoa.
I'm so over.
So you're rattled about the Wild. I like it.
I'm rattled about the Wild because I had them as a top two team in that Central Division, and that is not panning out to be true. The Ducks and Blackhawks have been really solid this year. Again, there's going to be some growing pains, like you always like to say, but
Yes.
they definitely have a real shot at being a wild card playoff bubble team. I'm not going to say Stanley Cup contenders, but they have a good shot at making the playoffs if they continue to get some good goaltending and the young guns continue to pop off. We come back after the break, and we're going to talk about big-time bets. 4 games on the schedule. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to the fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first 5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button. Leave a 5-star review for your boys here. Flip Livingstone and Steele Rodin. Flip, I'm going to throw it back over to you because I needed a little drink of some water over here.
Yeah, no doubt.
Big time bets, 4 games on the schedule. I have a weird and, tingly feeling that your boy, Sidney Crosby's no.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Wow.
I know. And look, it's been a very long weekend, Steele. Your boy's barely holding it together over here. That Jays loss was the most gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching, all the wrenches situation in my entire life. However, Maple Leafs on the money line. The Pittsburgh Penguins have had a great start, no doubt. And I know the Chris Tanev injury in that nature, that's a tough one for the lads to bounce back from, for sure. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a better team than the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. 7-3-0 for the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. In their last 10 against these Pittsburgh Penguins, Sid cooks Canadian teams. He loves playing against the Canadian teams, and he loves playing on the big stage as well, which Toronto is. And I wanted to throw out that Sidney Crosby anytime apple. I like the Leafs here in this spot very much so. Leafs money line. Quickly, if you're good, I'm just going to ream off all of my picks. The St. Louis Blues are not a team that I am ever going to back this season. Average. They went on a good run last year. I'm not buying it. 6-2-2 for the Edmonton Oilers in their last 10 against this Blues club. The offense, they've got 12 goals in their last 3 games. They beat Utah, Chicago. They lose to the Rangers. They've been up and down, Steele, no doubt. I like this spot. Give me Oilers on the money line. Vancouver and Nashville. This one screams over to me. 7 of the last 10 have gone under the number, but I like the over. 4 of Vancouver's last 5 games have been crooked. Hit me with the over and my favorite pick. Connor Bedard's on another level. He wants to play for Team Canada, and I swear down he's hearing that buzz. 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 points in his last 5 games. He's averaging 4 shots on net per game. Hit me with Connor Bedard, 4+ shots on net as my lock of the night. The Seattle Kraken allow a lot of shots on net. The Blackhawks are feeling it. So am I. Bedard, 4+ shots on net, lock of the night.
That's definitely getting added into the parlay. If you're not going to take the Crosby anytime assist, I will take it against the Maple Leafs.
That's what brothers do. You take care of each other.
I got your back here. Crosby is not missing a Locked On Fantasy Hockey show, especially with big-time bets.
My guy.
Against the Maple Leafs, Crosby, 30 goals, 43 assists in 56 games.
Not bad.
Absolutely incredible what he's able to do against this Toronto team. I didn't go as far as taking the Leafs on the money line just because of how bad they've been over the last stretch, over the last month. However, that is the first pick. Crosby, anytime assist. Second pick, I'm going to take the Evander Kane 1+ point against the Nashville Predators. I just talked about Evander Kane on the recent episode of Waiver Wire on Sunday. 5 assists in 13 games, top 6 minutes, power play time as well. With the amount of injuries Vancouver has, he's going to be getting a lot of opportunity. I think he's all over against this Nashville team. 1+ point from Evander Kane. Actually not lock of the night. The lock of the night will be Crosby anytime assist. Last pick tonight, Draisaitl 2+ points against the St. Louis Blues. You just said the Blues aren't even a team because they're not. This is as bad as I've ever seen them. Jordan Binnington looks awful out there. Joel Hofer looks awful out there. The defensive group has just been brutal. It's been a complete letdown in St. Louis. Draisaitl has not been a complete letdown. No. He's got 16 points in 13 games. In the last 5 games he's played this season, 4 of the last 5 have been multi-point games. The 2+ points is coming here against the St. Louis Blues. I'm absolutely feeling it. Lock of the night, though, Crosby anytime assist.
I think at this point, I might as well just send you money every night and say, here, Steele, just bet this because you are of the definition of on a heater. I hope it continues to flow that way because mortgages ain't cheap, Steele. So kudos to you. Stay hot. If you're out there listening still, make sure you just do whatever Steele is saying at this point. The guy's banking. Let's get after it. Another big week here on the Fantasy Hockey Podcast that you need. Take us away, my friend.
Appreciate everyone tuning in to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, making it your first listen every single day. For your second listen, make sure you go check out the Locked On NHL Game Night every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Don't miss an episode all week long. Flip and I will break down everything you need to know. You have any questions? Drop them on the YouTube channel. Send us a message on Twitter or Instagram. We are around and we love to have conversations with all of our listeners out there. And we'll see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.